Lake Nakuru, Kenya, serene and magnificent. But in a few weeks, Kenya's flamingos will see the arrival of this ugly duckling. This weird but somehow appealing little contraption is Transavia's Airtruck, the only commercial aircraft now being made in Australia. Designed by an Italian migrant in Sydney, the Airtruck is a crop duster which will carry considerably more than its own weight. This evening, an Airtruck took off on a sales promotion tour that will take it through Asia, India, the Middle East and Africa. The point of this almost Lindberghian voyage is to try to prove that the Airtruck is the most efficient agricultural aircraft in the world. More particularly, it's trying to convince Australian authorities that this country can have its own aircraft industry. Before he left, I asked pilot Roy Williams whether he was risking too much to prove the point.
No, not at all. Already I've made 4 flights across Australia in these aircraft, and I have a range of 900 miles, and a remarkably safe aircraft. I think if I had to force land it anywhere, I could put it down almost on a tennis court.
Roy Williams, however, is not the only man willing to fly 10,000 miles to prove a point. At the same time that he was preparing to leave on his epic journey, Leroy Brown was flying from Florida to Australia to take one flight in an Airtruck and then fly straight back home. Leroy, a pilot with National Airlines in America, owns a 5th share in an American crop dusting outfit. Was his 3-day journey worth the trouble?
Yeah, I think it was worth more than the trouble. I'd do it again. It was a pleasure to fly. And it's a real performing crop dusting airplane. I really like it.
I would have thought that if there was anywhere where you'd find a small specialized plane like this, it would be in America.
There are no manufacturers that I know of that specialize in only agricultural aircraft. We do have other manufacturers that make crop dusting airplanes, and they work very well. But this one took my eye because it's unusual, so I thought I'd come and look at it.
What would be the particular selling points of this aircraft here?
The economy of it, the aircraft with only 300 horsepower will carry a ton, which is roughly 50% more than the airplanes we've been used to. I think they really have something going.
The irony of the situation is this. While one man is willing to fly halfway around the world to prove the aircraft to overseas buyers, and another is willing to fly just as far to see it, the Airtruck can hardly get off the ground in its country of origin. So far, the company has made 30 aircraft, but more than half of them have gone to New Zealand. In Australia, the Airtruck has been battling intense competition from American light aircraft. Although the Airtruck is more versatile and can lift more, it's also more costly than its American counterparts. Yet some Americans in the field, like Leroy Brown, say we really have something going. But apparently the Australian government thinks otherwise. The government is either not interested or too scared to support an Australian light aircraft industry. This is particularly annoying to Transavia because, although the brains behind the Airtruck are those of European migrants, the aircraft was conceived in Australia, built in Australia, and designed for Australian conditions. Transavia's General Manager, Gil Forrester.
One of the things that intrigues me is that you say you've got here what you've described as a winning racehorse, and yet I gather you've still got problems. It's a hard aircraft to sell.
Well, it's hard because it's an unusual one. It's hard because it's new, competing with airplanes that have been existing for many years. It's also hard because Australians tend to decry the quality of their own products. There are a lot of very excellent things made in Australia, but it's very hard sometimes to get an Australian to choose them in preference to an imported product.
What about the idea of support and help in this? I gather that you haven't really had much help from the government on that.
No, we haven't had any help from the government so far. I think mostly because they, along with other Australians, weren't convinced that this could be done here. We've proven that it can. We've proven that it can be built competitively.
What sort of support were you looking for exactly with this aircraft?
Well, principally, I think we were looking for an expression of confidence on the part of the government that this aircraft, or that an aircraft industry in Australia could be established and could survive. A lot of our potential customers, while interested in the product, have been sort of sitting on the fence and waiting to see whether we would survive. We will survive, but by the time they make their mind up, we will have been quite successful, probably overseas.
I presume that after this tour through many countries that you could perhaps sell quite a few Airtrucks overseas. If that did happen, do you think there'd be some amusement on the part of the staff here that it's a success overseas and yet Australia won't accept it?
I don't think there'd be so much amusement as a satisfaction in seeing our thoughts and our intentions bear fruit. I think that everybody here has put a pretty big part of their life, their energies into this thing. We believe in it, and it hasn't let us down so far.
The aircraft hasn't let them down, but it seems that someone else has. While a payment of $250 million is being considered for the F-111, which might never be needed, the Airtruck, which cost $28,000, is struggling for survival. By 1972, Australia will be importing $30 million worth of aircraft a year. But unless something is done to foster the local industry by that time, the Airtruck might have disappeared.